The Sistermaticity Podcast.
Welcome to the first episode of the Sistermaticity Podcast, round 2. Previously, we've focused on society's organization around people becoming parents, being pregnant and giving birth in Sweden. Now we're broadening our scope. Now we're going to look at the conditions around being a parent during all of the years our children live at home. My feeling is that if a society can crack how this mission is made more possible, maybe possible at all, that society will work. If not, it won't. This is because parenting is very important, obviously, but it is also because no citizen in midlife has the privilege of only being a parent, of only having one society-sustaining mission. Besides parenting and running our households, we need to take care of our own physical and mental health. We need to, many of us, take care of ailing parents. We need to try to be good neighbors and friends, partners maybe. And oh, did I mention most of us also need to work at the so-called work. If we burn out and can't live up to one of these responsibilities, that often affects the other ones too, which then obviously affects society's function. So, we either find ways to alleviate the pressure of this phase of life. I mean, we, the designers, the thinkers of how to solve this. So we alleviate the pressure of this phase of life, or we design for the special forces operators that we clearly need to be. I, Karin Christensson, a mom of 2 in the countryside of the northwest coast of Sweden, a psychologist by training, society nerd by nature, feel that both are quintessential, but my calling is the latter. Finding the design that can have midlife citizens thrive under the pressure of a multitude of parallel responsibilities, including parenting, is the mission of this podcast and all of the projects around it. In today's episode, you'll get to meet Victoria Pettersson, who is a mother, midwife, and the chairperson of a community organization, the Island Council on the island, where she lives off the west coast of Sweden, not far from here. Is it in her role as a midwife or as an island council chair that she can best support her role as a mother? That and many other tricky and exciting questions are what we explore in this premiere episode of the Sistermaticity Podcast 2.0. Please tag along. Welcome, Victoria, to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to get the question to join in.
Yes, you are most welcome. And it's late at night. We've done a show in Swedish, but I thought for international interest, we should just make a little recap and maybe get into a little new nook of exploration. Who knows? But to make this available for English speakers too. So I'll do the 5 quick ones. I do that with all guests. So crayfish from the sea or from the lakes?
100% from the sea.
Okay, you're not biased in that. Okay, so you live on an island in the sea, in the very west sea of Sweden. Do you prefer summer or winter on your island?
I do prefer winter.
Interesting. Early morning or late evenings?
Late evenings.
Planning everything ahead or just living in the now? Carpe diem.
The carpe diem, the volley style. Yes, of course you have to. Yeah, of course you have to do some planning, but I prefer that more.
Yeah,
the spontaneous.
The volley style is good because I don't know if it translates to English, but it's a very good expression. You just take it on volley. The ball comes, so you take it on volley. Yeah, it's exactly how it is to be a parent, right? And who do you think will move on to be in the World Cup in the men's football, soccer tournament? We have like a super serious game on Tuesday. Poland or Sweden?
Of course, Sweden.
Of course. It's settled. It's settled. They don't even have to play. Okay, so to set this up, you are a mother of 3. Your eldest child is 11, 12?
10, yeah. 10.
10, yeah. So pretty small children. And you're a midwife working mostly with prenatal care. And you are also the leader of a small local civil society organization for the island. And those 3 roles I would like to explore a little bit because they sort of are intermingled in interesting ways, I think. Okay, how could you think of the idea to actually become the chairwoman of this organization when you already had 3 kids, maybe you had 2 kids back in the day, and you were also a midwife for your professional life? How did you find the energy or even the idea to become the chairwoman for this organization?
I have to admit, sometimes I do question myself, like, how did I end up here? But that could be both in the position of leading Rådet, as it's called, Skaftö Råd, but also how did I end up with 3 kids? Or did I actually became a midwife? This is my job. How did I end up here? Because it's a super interesting and complex job. But when I think again, it's like, of course I ended up here. So for me, I think very much a way to take control of a situation that was potentially becoming very negative for my children, for us as a family, for the island's families, and potentially, like in the long run, for the entire island. That motivated me to like do something.
And what was the crisis?
It was a school.
It was a
they
school.
wanted to
Yeah.
shut down the school, or parts of the school, which would radically change the like family life condition and life conditions on this island. So yeah, something had to be done, and of course I wasn't alone, but I took the lead, and that pretty much, I think, is the reason why I ended up where I am, like in this position where I am today. And it has opened a lot of new doors to opportunities. Hopefully, no new crisis, but opportunities. We find them and we grab them.
What tell me about an opportunity that you found via this engagement.
Well, we have the podcast, that was that was very clear. Like, we need to do something positive. We can't stay in this negativity. We need to show that we have this island. It's a rich life all year round. It's not just a summer's paradise. So that was very much like, we have a possibility to change people's view, or give them a different view on what it's like to actually live on Skaftö, and especially as a family.
And that's actually how you and I met. We didn't know each other, even though we lived pretty closely, but you called me to see how to make a podcast, which is really funny because I'm really bad at doing podcasts. The way that you and your colleague have, or your friend have, developed SYSTERMATIKpodden, which is this local, the islands podcast, is just so impressive. I cannot recommend it enough. What can an international audience do, though, to understand? Do you have anything in English?
We actually do have listeners all over the world. This is just weird. Of course, I guess it's people who is on vacation abroad or so, but it's no, we don't have any English spoken content really. So
that can be arranged.
Maybe we should do a spin-off like you are doing with Sistermaticpodden. You inspired me before,
Yes. Okay, so you got engaged in this community organization when the school was threatened, and therefore your family life would have had to change very radically, which would have been a bummer for everyone, including Sweden as a system or as a society, because you had moved to where you were best supported, close to your family, your siblings and parents. And so the setup was already pretty good for you to be able to be quite self-sufficient. But now something structurally was changing. The school was going to be moved. And so you would have had to do everything differently. And we don't know how you would have been affected by that. Now, that was what got you engaged. But you are engaged in family matters, also professionally, since you are a midwife. What is it that you feel that you in the prenatal program would love to be able to give that you can't fully give, and that maybe even the island organization gives just as well or better?
I think that we have a very specific given role and mission with the prenatal work. It's very restrained. These are the frames to work within. We do have, in some ways, the responsibility to follow up, like social support is available, needed, and could possibly be activated around a pregnant person or family to be. But it's not like we have the tools to work further, really. And I think when the civil society can complement our systems, like the healthcare system, I think that's the best of all worlds. Because I've seen it, and I see it daily on the place where I live. Not necessarily this organization that I'm working within, but other organizations whom we support, and different factors that we are sort of
catalyzing.
So I think the importance of the closeness geographically to give the support and to identify that. So there are things that could be done to shed a light on what's already here, like what we already have. But yeah, it's a huge question, and I'm just a very, very little person in this chain of events that happens in people's life. So I'm very humble for that. But I do think there are things that could be done, and I really look forward to hear more about what that could be.
Yeah, but you're an innovator. Wherever you show up, you invent. I know you've been involved in several things in your professional life, but also on the island, and just the mere fact that you jumped on and took the baton and wanted to actually be the leader for the island organization. It says something about you, and that you're ready to innovate when you have to. I think we can end on just explaining the Swedish system really condensedly, because I think what you said is it's going to be hard to have maternity care, which is part of public health care, and civil society working together. We know this is always hard for many organizations that we have publicly funded and that have laws surrounding what they do and what they can and cannot do. But I think, as you said, it is the big question of our time in a way, because we know, and as many other countries are struggling with, no matter how big or how small your publicly funded system is with healthcare and school and law enforcement, no matter, it is a fact that we have fewer and fewer children. We have a population that lives longer. And so how we can be smarter about the little publicly funded services that we do have is a $10,000 question at least. And if the answer can partly be that they partner up with civil society, somehow pushing the power out, then that is probably a very good idea. But how to do that and to stay still in the frames of the law and the other restrictions, that's a really interesting question.
Yeah, and I also think, like, you have the external factors, you have like the interpersonal factors, but you also have the intrapersonal factors. Like, we also, I think, need to think, how do we prepare young people or younger people to take the step into parenthood before they come to us being pregnant? Because it's a bit of a challenge. We live in a time where we digitalize a lot of our social interaction, and social media sadly often replace this interaction with society. So I think that is also something to think about before they come to us and they are pregnant. How can we influence maybe even before going into parenthood?
Right? This is the question. Like, who is the influencer? When do they come in? Who do they team up with? And maternity care and the institution of that has a huge role. But when you look at it, you start to realize that you have to backtrack even more.
Yeah.
And that it will have to be a collaboration as well, with maternity care maybe being the place giver or the cue giver but some other institution that is not used to working with maternity care. This is what we're going to explore in this podcast. I'm so happy that you were part of it for the very, very first show of the second season, or the reboot, or whatever we call it. And is there anything that I forgot to ask you or tell you, or anything you want to plug, anything you want to say?
I just want to say I really look forward to what's about to come now, season 2 in Sistermaticpodden. So, and I also want to thank you, for doing this in my different roles. I do look forward to hear more and to learn more. So thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Well, I promise to be super local, whether it's here or just being very local about you and your local place or somewhere else, but I also promise to be more international. So follow along, midwives all over the place, but also other people. Okay, thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so very much for listening to today's show. Please follow, subscribe, like, rate, review, all of those good things on the platforms that the podcast is on, Spotify and YouTube. And go to Instagram at SYSTERMATIKpodden or the Sistermaticity Podcast to join the adventure. Over there, I let you know of upcoming guests and topics. I do some deep everyday philosophizing on these topics, and I also try to help parents directly, just as I try to help the institutions that try to help them. I do everything in both Swedish and English, so please don't hesitate spreading the word to all kinds of friends of yours, and see you soon.